Throughout this entire course, the two things you will hear the most are scenes and sources. So before we go any further, we should probably make sure you know what these are and how to use them. I'm Dwayne Berg, the host of Technical Difficulties, a weekly live show that gives you tips, tricks, and tutorials on how to raise the production ceiling of your live streams. And welcome back to my OBS Masterclass. In today's lesson, we'll be focusing on scenes and sources, what they are, and how you can use them. Scenes and sources go hand in hand and are essential to setting up a recording or live stream with OBS Studio. Sources are, sources of data for your stream. Video input devices such as webcams and capture cards, desktop monitor captures, game inputs, microphones, images, website overlays, and so on. There are many different source types, and it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the options available. Audio input and output capture allows you to add audio devices to specific scenes that you don't want to be globally available. Sometimes you want specific things added only within certain scenes, such as adding music to a Be Right Back scene, or adding only your microphone to certain scenes. Browser sources are probably the most common used source for live streaming. This is what most streamers use to get their follower alerts and other pop-up elements on their streams. By adding a browser source, you can input the URL of a website. I use a variety of browser sources from services like Pixel Chat and Stream Elements during my streams. A color source is just that. It's a solid color. You can give it a width and a height and choose the appropriate color for your needs. This can be very handy for backgrounds or especially for chroma keying graphics. A display capture is a direct feed from your monitor. You can choose between multiple monitors if you use more than one, and you can choose to show or hide your cursor, which is handy. On computers with a single graphics card, this works perfectly. But on lower-end desktops or laptops with both a discrete graphics card used for gaming and a graphics handler built into the CPU, this can be kind of touchy, as the two graphics cards handle different things in your computing experience, and OBS can only use one at a time. So you may end up with a black screen in your game capture, but display capture works fine, or a black screen for display capture, but game capture works fine. In this case, you'll have to set up different profiles and scene collections for different activities. Game capture is great for capturing games or full screen applications. This creates a hook within your graphics driver to capture the direct feed from the game, much like how older recording programs such as Fraps and Directory worked. As with display capture, if you have multiple display devices in your system, there can be issues with black screens. Just tinker around, changing your display device in the advanced settings to try and fix it. An image source is what you would add for adding static stream overlays, webcam frames, and so on. I use an overlay for some of my stream scenes. Many streamers use overlays, watermarks, and webcam frames to add a little bit more personalization and flair to their streams. An image slideshow is useful for slideshows. You could use slideshows to cycle through your stream starting soon, be right back, and offline scenes, or you could use it to slide through various sponsors or affiliate codes. A media source adds a music or video file. You actually have two ways to set this up. You can use the regular media source or a VLC video source. This is for compatibility purposes with some systems. If the video isn't playing properly on your system, you can try switching to the other kind of media source and see if it has better results. This is also what you would use if you want to add overlays and webcam frames with animation. Next up, we have a scene source. You can add an entire scene to your scene. This kind of nesting is an important part of higher level video production. There will be an entire lesson devoted to scene nesting in the future. Text sources add text to your scene. You can customize the font, size, color, gradient, and so on. It can also automatically load text from a text file and keep it updated. You can use this with Stream Elements or Streamlabs stream labels so that you can show your recent followers and donations and so on. Window capture is for exactly what it sounds like, capturing windows. This is useful for when you want to show only what's happening in a specific window, for showing work in a program or non-full screen game without showing anything else on your desktop. And it keeps showing whatever the window is doing, even if you bring other windows in front of it on your computer. Some streamers use a window capture to show their Twitch chat in their live stream. Window capture is also beneficial because it captures the same view of the window even if you move it around on your screen. Whereas the desktop capture, you'd have to adjust your scaling and cropping once you move the window. You can still choose whether or not you want the cursor to show in the capture. I use this mostly to stream my games because I only want to capture the game and I want the same capture to happen no matter where the game is on my screen. Window capture works perfectly for this. Video capture device is the big one. This one is for external video devices, usually via USB. This is your webcams and capture cards. Important stuff. I use 2 cameras and 1 capture card in my system, so absolute necessity for my streams. Add a video capture and choose the correct device. You should recognize it from there. Then you choose Custom next to Device Resolution and choose the appropriate options. For example, my Canon M50 is brought in at 1080p 60 frames per second, but my webcam is brought in at 1080p 30 frames per second. My capture card gets pulled in at 1080p 60 frames per second. You can mess around with the color spaces, video formats, and custom audio devices, a necessity for certain devices, but for most things, the defaults are fine. For all sources, you can right-click and select Properties, or click the Properties button in the Sources toolbar under the main window to adjust the settings. It's worth noting that if an added source is removed from all scenes, it will disappear from the list of sources of that type, and you will have to set up the source all over again. If you remove the source, but it's still present in other scenes, you can add it again by adding a source, selecting the type, then choosing Add Existing and selecting from the available list. If you right-click a source, you can apply deinterlacing and scale filtering if necessary. You'll know what these are if you need them. Or you can also add a filter. Filters are basically effects for the audio and video of your source. For video filters, you can crop, mask, add color correction, chroma key, apply camera LUTs, and add a sharpen filter. For audio filters, you can apply additional gain to make it louder, correct for a delay in your video, add a noise suppressor or noise gate, a compressor to even out your audio, or a more complex VST plugin. We'll cover some of these in more depth in a future lesson. To resize or reposition sources on your canvas, click on the source, either in the video preview or in the sources list. A bounding box will then appear. Click and drag to move it around or use the corners to resize. Holding Alt while doing so will crop the source as desired. You will also see a small lock symbol next to individual source names in your sources list. This allows you to lock a source in place, and prevent it from being moved or resized. This is super handy if you have some primary full canvas sources like gameplay, desktop captures, or a full screen face cam that you don't want to get messed up. It's super easy to be working away, moving and resizing sources, and accidentally click the bottom layer and move it completely out of whack. This helps prevent that and is a huge convenience. Although, as of OBS version 27, you can also use Ctrl-Z to undo unintended changes. Once you have some static sources in your scene that you don't plan on ever moving, probably your overlays, you might as well lock them down. And that's it for sources. Scenes are much more simple once you understand sources. Scenes are a layered view of multiple sources. They are absolutely necessary to create a dynamic and engaging live stream production. I have different scenes for starting soon, be right back, stream ending, gameplay with a nested webcam, my desktop view, and even just chatting. I also have several other nested scenes for other things. Scenes can get incredibly complex, but gives you the ability to make your streams look more refined and professional. In the Hotkeys tab in the Settings menu, you can set hotkeys to switch scenes. This is even more powerful with a macro keypad like the Elgato Stream Deck, Touch Portal, or you can even use something like a guitar foot pedal. You can also activate Studio Mode. This is incredibly useful to adjust scenes while you are live or prepare scenes before you switch to them. The scene on the right is the active scene that your audience is seeing. The scene on the left will be the scene that you have selected. You can keep a scene live and unedited to your audience, then once you've made the changes, switch to the edited scene. That way the viewers don't have to watch as you tinker with the new scene. This was a longer lesson than we've had previously, but I wanted to make sure that before we got any further in the course, you had a thorough understanding of scenes and sources and what they are. They do add new source types with updates, and you can actually add new source types with a variety of plugins. But if you understand the basics, you should be able to handle any of those. That's it for this lesson. If this lesson was helpful for you, please do me a favor, hit the like button, and tell a friend about this course. I will see you next time, and as always, stream on.